Hello, and welcome to a reading of an extract from my novel, Gallybaggar. I come from the Isle of Wight, and for those of you who don't know, a gallybaggar is a traditional Isle of Wight dialect name for scarecrow. Some of you may have seen the 1973 film The Wicker Man, which features a giant, terrifying scarecrow-type figure. But did you know that in some cultures, scarecrows are a symbol for good and can warn people of impending danger? My novel, Gallybaggar, is the tale of three women, several centuries, and one spellbinding story of revenge set on an isolated marshland. I first camped on this marshland on the Isle of Wight when I was 18, and there was something so otherworldly about the area that it stuck in my mind and has become the inspiration for my novel. The key characters in Gallybaggar are Rachel, who is a trainee teacher, Hepzibah, a 14th century witch, and Alice, a Victorian mother whose son drowned in the creek. Gallybaggar is my debut novel. It is a work in progress, but the opening of Gallybaggar was recently longlisted in the 2026 Farnham First 5 Pages competition, although sadly it did not make it through to the final stages. My novel is a triple narrative, and it is still very much a work in progress, so there is plenty of room for improvement. The extract I am going to read comes from the first quarter of the story and features Rachel at the present-day summer camp. Trainee science teacher Rachel is coping with the sudden death of her father and her mother's worsening dementia when she discovers a mysterious entry in her father's diary relating to the birth of a child. Thoughts scrambled in Rachel's head as she stepped out of the tent. The revelation that she had a sibling had left her unsettled. It changed her whole sense of identity. She was still processing the discovery, but her sense of normalcy had been shattered. It was a beautiful July evening at summer camp, and the light was golden and ethereal as it shone on the tall grasses and silken seed heads in the meadows. Gossamer glinted in the sunlight like fairies' tightropes strung across the teasels, and Rachel could hear the students singing around the campfire as they relaxed after dinner. The startling discovery in her late father's diary had left her on edge. She turned down the track towards the campfire to join this evening's impromptu performance, then changed her mind. Craving solitude and thinking space, she headed in the other direction towards the marsh. A reed warbler flew up, and Rachel caught her breath, instantly transported back to the first time she went bird-watching with her father, almost 2 decades ago. He had nurtured her love of the natural world, and he had been so proud when she graduated from university with a degree in ecology. She ached to speak to him right now. She had so many questions that she knew her mother would be too confused to answer. Only a week ago, Rachel had been keen to go to summer camp because she believed the 2-week break from her parents' affairs would do her good. Being part of the team of staff on school trips was a rite of passage for a trainee teacher too. But now she wished she had stayed at home so she could dig around in her parents' house to discover more. The day was starting to cool as Rachel strode out across the springy turf, deep in thought. Who else might know about the truth about her family? She remembered Aunt Isabel, her father's sister. She might know something. It had been Isabel who had encouraged Rachel to become a teacher. Smiling at the memory, Rachel made a note to email her later. The sun went behind a dark cloud as Rachel came to the edge of the creek. The grass was studded with spiky sedge, and the sky was slowly turning to evening. The change of light from cornflower bright to oyster shell grey made the stretch of oozing black mud look bleaker than ever. The stench of rotting vegetation assaulted Rachel's nostrils. Decomposition is cellular work, and the silent marshland relished death. The bank was plastered with decades of detritus flung up on the highest of spring tides. Driftwood, shells, bird bones, and dried strips of bladderwrack, all tangled up with feathers and fishermen's nets. As Rachel looked out across the water, she became aware of a sudden shirt-soaking sea fog rolling in, galloping across the water quicker than the shadowy steeds of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. She felt her nerves stretch, taut as tripwires, and an icy chill slid down Rachel's back as she spun round. The smell of musty straw soured the air as an eerie figure appeared. Looming out of the mist, the scarecrow woman was a skeletal creature, dressed in a tattered black skirt and a torn white blouse with red embroidery. She pointed to Rachel with a branch-like finger and seemed to look into her soul with all-seeing black button eyes. Rachel staggered backwards in alarm and almost fell. A scream died on her lips as she saw the terrifying scarecrow woman reaching out towards her. The face moved as if it was trying to say something, but the straw-stuffed head only had a red ribbon mouth sewn tightly shut. Terrified, Rachel took flight, slipping and scrabbling along the bank and plunging headlong into the hawthorn bushes, which snagged her with spindly fingers. She ran until the scarecrow woman was far behind her, then hurried, panting, straight back to her tent. Rachel collapsed on her sleeping bag, head in her hands. As a 20-something with a scientific background, she was an extremely logical person, but there was no rational explanation for the appearance of the scarecrow woman. Rachel knew that the past month or so following her father's fatal car accident had been stressful, but even so, was she hallucinating? Having a nervous breakdown? "I'm losing my bloody mind," she whispered bitterly into the still night. Tears of despair slid down Rachel's cheeks as an owl hooted, unseen, in the growing darkness. If you would like to find out what happened next, please do buy a copy of this anthology, Tendrils, and read on. All proceeds from the sale of the anthology are going to Tree Aid, a registered charity which works with local people in Africa to grow trees, restore land, and fight the effects of poverty and climate crisis. So you will be supporting a very good cause. Thank you for listening. Keep following my YouTube channel to hear more about the progress of Gallybaggar.